You're listening to the Gabe Molina Podcast.
Chuck Briseno, how you doing, bud?
Doing really good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me at your grandmama's house, man. Like I told you when I first pulled up, I got a lot of flashbacks and memories of growing up because I grew up on this road and I didn't realize, the Brisenos were down here, but I always made it just to my buddy James's house, and then we'd get in trouble and have to go home early. But I appreciate you having me, man.
I appreciate you coming from San Antonio.
Man, the last time we tried to hook up, I forgot to bring it, man. So I watched a YouTube video that you'd done, and it was late at night, I guess. Everybody was asleep, and you were eating a cup of soup.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you were in Austin, you guys were going to swing by the house, and so I went and bought a shit ton of cup of soups. So my wife's still upset that we have it all in the pantry, and I was supposed to bring it to you. I totally forgot, but I figured out a way to get it to you.
That's pretty funny.
But yeah, man, I'm excited to talk to you. You had a gig down here this weekend, didn't you?
I played an acoustic show at the Live Oak Sports Grill, and Lucio is from here, and he runs that deal there, and he had called me and said he wanted to make it into a benefit for out of Florida, so I 100% agreed, to do that, and so we kind of worked it out, and it was a great turnout. It was Christmas Eve, a lot of people came out to support, so, and I think they said they raised like $4,000 by just raffling a gun off, so I don't know what else.
That's great, dude.
Yeah.
That's really good. One thing that I can say for the community down here in Live Oak County is they show up for each other, man. It takes a lot to get something like that going, to get a venue, to get an act to come in, to the talent, and to just put it together. And they do it regularly, man. They do it regularly for people who've been sick or passed away, and I love seeing that because it's important that we do that for each other. We all grew up together, and everybody goes their own way, and but eventually we come back here to help out, and so I love seeing that stuff. So tell me a little bit, man, about your origins. I saw a little bit online about you getting a guitar from your grandfather when you were little.
So, yeah, I grew up in this house, and my grandpa had a guitar. He played music. He wrote songs for my grandma in Spanish. We still got all the cassette tapes in the box.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And, I picked up a guitar. He bought me my first guitar probably when I was, probably 6, 7, 8 or something like that. And I just kind of wanted to learn how to play, and just because he did it, and eventually, I just ended up sleeping with the damn thing. Yeah. And I was writing. My grandma, I was writing poems or songs, and she kept a box full of them. You know what I mean? She found all of them and just kept them, and which is really awesome to kind of have that and reflect back on that and remember being that young kid, because you understand that people are playing music and you hear people on the radio. It's like, man, but you don't really get the full brevity of like, hey, they're actually like make a living doing that.
Yeah.
Like they don't just do it for fun. Like that's their job. They get to go out, but you don't really realize that at that age, so you're pretty wide-eyed about it. And it's not something that, I don't know, there's something that changes in your mind when you actually start, you're like, wait a minute, could I do this? And so that didn't happen for me for a long time, but yeah, right here in this house.
I didn't realize your grandfather was a musician.
He played quite a bit. I think he had done some stuff, and before he passed, he went out and he would sing and stuff with his friends. So it was kind of cool to like see that, but especially like being younger, he did play quite often on his off time, and he'd be sitting in his room on the recliner, and he'd be picking a song, and he had his little cassette recorder, and he'd record on there, which is pretty neat.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, we still have all those tapes.
My dad, when he was younger, he loved to sing, and Dad's got some pretty good songs. And he's got a decent voice. He just he had some surgery a while back, and they put the I guess tube down in his esophagus, and ever since then he doesn't like the way he sounds. But I kind of like it because it sounds very raw and kind of gritty. But it's when we're kids and we're hearing them record those songs, and you don't think about it. And now that we're older and we can go back and listen to them, it means a whole lot more. And thankful that they were doing those little recordings on those little those little recording boxes. So is he kind of your? I guess it'd be safe to say he's probably your first influence in the music. Then was he teaching you how to play as well, or who's kind of leading you in that?
I didn't really have a teacher. The guitar he had was a right-handed guitar, and I'm left-handed.
Oh, you're wrong-handed.
So I didn't have internet or anything or book. I just I saw what he was doing. I took the guitar and I tuned it a certain way to where I could put one finger down. It would, what I know now to be a major chord. So I would do that, and I figured out by listening that what sounded right. You know what I mean? And it was just me experimenting with the strings and like tuning them a certain way and having my finger there and like trying to find out what chord was what. And then eventually I saw other people playing, and they were playing to me what looked like backwards, but I was the one that was backwards. And I still play like that today. I haven't learned how to play a regular left-handed guitar.
So you're playing a right-handed guitar upside down?
Yes.
Okay. Hendrix did that, didn't he?
So it's a common misconception. Hendrix did play the guitar upside down, but the strings, he had the big E string, thick one, on top. So he was right. The strings were the right way. But I think he did play left-handed, but he took a right-hand guitar, flipped it over, and then he restrung it the right way.
Gotcha.
If you look at pictures, he did take a guitar and flip it over and play. And someone who did play the way that I play, Dan Seals.
Oh, really?
He played like that. And you look at pictures, you can see the big string on the bottom. It's like, man, how'd you do that for? Well, I don't know. I didn't have a left-handed guitar, and it just made sense to me. I could see my grandpa playing chords or somebody playing chords, and I could transpose them in my head backwards. So I just knew that made more sense to me. That makes sense.
Yeah. You know what's crazy is I've got a guitar at the house, and me and my wife have no clue what we're doing. But it's hard enough to learn how to play the guitar as it is, but then to play it with the strings completely reversed. I mean, you really don't have an example of somebody to watch, to learn from. You're literally, I guess you've got to have an amazing ear to hear those sounds and know how to switch that upside down in your head.
I think one thing that helped me is, I think in like 6th grade, you start high school band. So you start learning how to read notes. So that helped a lot. Understanding how that, being taught music that way. And I played the trumpet. So I learned how to do that. I understood music structure then. And, after a while, and then as I got more involved with it, then I knew I was like, okay, that's what this note is. That's what this note is. I started putting stuff together. But it wasn't till probably maybe like 14 or 15 that I could play songs, and I knew like I could like cover songs, people would like, and I knew that they enjoyed it, so like I was always doing that, whether it was a little party or a back road somewhere, so I liked being that guy, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then so like and then also writing. When I was like 15 or 16, I wrote a bunch of songs, and some of them were interesting and funny, and we recorded them at my friend's computer microphone at his parents' house, and I don't even know where those recordings are anymore.
He's gonna sell them one of these days.
If anybody ever finds them, I don't know where they are.
A lot of love songs?
No, I don't know. I don't really know. There's a lot of interesting stuff. I'll find them somewhere. I'm sure somebody's got them on a CD hiding.
It's probably not a CD.
Hiding.
Well, I don't know. You're 10 years younger.
We made like 10 CDs.
I was thinking, what are those little? Not the floppy disk, the one immediately after. forget what they were. Those little hard plastic ones. That's what we recorded everything. But I'm probably 10 years older than you. So shortly after high school, you ended up going to West Point, right?
Well, not really. So I went to B County College.
What'd you study there?
You know, I didn't really know what I was going to get into there. I didn't really have like a major, but I did like your basic history, and I think I did like maybe a math class, but then I also did drafting and design.
What?
So I was like,
That's
man,
what I did, man. You're also talking to B County College 1998 Best Supporting Actor in the drama department.
Well, that's pretty good.
So that's cool. So you went into drafting. So were you there with Bob Roberts and Schlitz?
Yeah, I think that those names make sense.
Yeah.
The old guy.
Well, he wasn't as old when I was there.
He drove an old Mustang.
There's a tall, skinny one, and then there was a tall, heavy-set one.
Yeah.
And one was Bob Roberts. We called him Bob's.
I know Bob Roberts.
And then the other one was...
the last name you said Schlitzka or something?
Yeah, it's something similar to that.
So that guy had like a 1965 mint condition Mustang. It had the original air condition that attached to the bottom, had this radio in there, everything. And I remember the year that I left, I ended up going to the Army.
Yeah.
But the year that I left for the Army, I came back one time just to go visit after I did basic training. I just came back and just went to the classroom. You know what I mean? You could go do that then. It's hard to do stuff like that now. But he was like, I'm selling that car. He was selling it for $5,000. I was like, I wish I had the money, because that car's probably worth $20,000 right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I remember about that place.
I haven't
heard that name forever.
I think I remember that car too. Yeah, man, same little program, same little deal. He was a good dude. I'd go over there often just to use their equipment, and every now and then with the company that I'm at now, they'll bring some students up around Christmas time. They didn't do it this past year, but they'll bring them up and we'll talk to them about the business and stuff like that. But you and I chose two very different career paths, and I think you won, man. I think you won.
I don't know. So that kind of got me into like engineering. I mean, I was doing technical drawings, my technical art and illustration classes, and then doing like AutoCAD, the basic stuff. And then me and my best friend, Matt Murphy, we were feeding cows one day, and I was like, hey, you know, what are you doing? What are you doing today? So I'm going to go join the Army. So,
he told you that?
Yeah. I said, well, I'm going with you. You know, so we both left about the same time. You know, they recruited both of us, and he went to infantry. I went and did cavalry, and he wanted to do airborne school and all this, jumping out of airplanes, and he knew what all that stuff was. I understood what airborne was, but I wasn't about to be doing that. But as luck would have it, I ended up having to do that anyway. So then I went to Germany. It was my first duty station. And our unit was a heavy cavalry, tanks, Bradleys, trucks, heavy. And I got there and they picked me up and they said, hey, well, you know, we're a heavy unit, but you need to get ready because it's not going to be this anymore. We're going to actually be part of the 173rd Airborne Brigade. And I was like, airborne? I got to go to jump school. I said, yeah. So I ended up going to jump school, and then came back, and shortly thereafter went to Afghanistan. Deployed in like May 28th, 2007. And then we was there till June 12th, 2008.
Wow.
I had one break in there toward the end. I had 18 days off. But during that deployment, I got offered, or I was told about West Point, which I didn't know what it was really. I knew what it was, but not 100%.
Yeah.
And you know, I emailed, and I also called the admissions officer. And
this is all while you're in Afghanistan.
Yeah. So I got off guard duty. And I made a call, and I just told him, hey, you know, what do I got to do to go to school there? And he said, well, you got to do a few things. Where you at? I told him, He's like, interesting. So he said he helped me out a lot. And so we got through the checklist, and he's like, have you taken your SAT and ACT? I said, no. And he's like, okay. He's like, well, when do you think you could take them? Like, I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm in Afghanistan. My leave, my R&R is not till May. He's like, well, you need it. And this is in like November of 07.
Okay.
And I was like, my R&R is not till May. I still got months before I get to even go home. And he's like, well, and he didn't understand. Like, he had been deployed before, and he knew that there was, I'm sure he understood there was like facilities and services for people on like bigger bases at this point, hopefully, and there was, but he didn't. I tried to explain to him where I was. I was like, I'm on an outpost like a mile from Pakistan. Like, there's like 30 of us here. Like, I'm on guard duty every other hour or something, I don't have a lot of time, so it's tough. So I proposed a question to the people in my leadership. I was like, hey, how are we going to do this? And so they said, well, why don't you call the education center in Bagram, which is the big Air Force base in Afghanistan. And I was like, okay. And they said, well, why don't you ask them if they'll do the test there for you? I was like, well, it's worth a shot. So I got on the one phone we had there and called. And she said, yeah. She's like, I could do them. She's like, it's going to take a month to get the tests here, but I can administer them, I was like, perfect. I called the guy back. I said, hey, I can take the test in February or March or something. And that was right about the time that my commander was switching out with a new commander. It was his time to change over. So they basically had to sneak me out of the base or the outpost, because a rifle and a soldier is really important. And so I just carried my commander's bag and went to Bagram on the helicopter. And I got there, and I had like a week to study for the tests, and I took them. The deadline to submit all your packet was February, and I was taking my tests in February, so they definitely went above and beyond to, like, even the people at West Point, to let my packet develop and get everything that I needed, because by February you're supposed to have all your stuff in. But I was going to be too old to wait another year. So so
there's an age limit to get in the...
Yeah. Oh, okay. There's a lot. There's a lot of constraints. So I did that, and it's kind of like a waiting game, and I had to do like physical, and I had basically, if it wouldn't have been that difficult if I'd have been at, the regular base or job or whatever, I could have just done all the stuff in, a day or two, but it took a course of like 2 months being deployed. And because the whole time I was a team leader and I was going on mission, I was a scout. So, I was walking in mountains and doing patrols, and I was a gunner in my Humvee. I commanded the Humvee when my platoon leader wasn't doing that. He was commanding the platoon. So, like, I still was doing my job, as a scout, which, to give you some kind of, like, I guess, clarity in the situation, we lost 43 guys got killed in our unit. So, like, you got that stuff going on.
That's a bunch, man.
And then, you're trying to do this, and which is like a point of there's a point of, I guess, I don't know the word I'm trying, like, conflict with not very many people, but like a couple people on my unit, that when I got accepted finally, and they literally flew me to Germany. I packed my stuff and I flew straight there. I didn't have any time to chill out, really. Kind of get my wits about normal life, and some people were, you left, or, you left your guys behind, you're a piece of crap or something. But that wasn't it, though. You know what I mean? Like, my leadership really saw the potential in me to be a leader in the Army, and they wanted me to take the next step. So they all supported it. When I got the email from the superintendent saying you've been accepted, I was in Afghanistan when I got that. And then the next email was my XO, my platoon leader, my XO, my commander, the battalion commander, the brigade commander, you know, and they all signed that. They hand signed a deal, scanned it, and said, get this guy out of here, whatever it takes. So there was like some kind of a deal where I had to be released from the unit to be allowed on the Advon or something, and they just signed some memo or something to like allow me to do that. And so it was kind of crazy, man. You know, I got to Germany. I mean, I had a few days to like go and hang out with my friends and stuff, but everybody was deployed. There was a few people that I knew, a bunch of new soldiers that were on their way out. Yeah. So it was interesting, man. You know.
So how many days do you think it was from you leaving the outpost to ending up there at?
So I got to Germany on the 12th of June, and our day was the 29th or something. So it was like 2 weeks.
Jeez. That's
But I mean, and I came home. When I got my flights, so the Army paid for my flights to go to West Point because they treated it like a PCS, so the whatever travel was paid for. But I scheduled my flight where I landed in New Jersey, and then I had 2 days before I had to report. So I said, hey, well, I haven't been home. I want to go home one more time. So I got a round trip flight. So I landed in Newark, and I had a round trip flight to Corpus Christi. And my friend picked me up, and we went to a strip club. And
you went to a strip club in Corpus?
Yeah, it was like
You're
Cheetahs
probably better
or
off
something.
going to one in New Jersey.
To Cheetahs or something. But he picked me up from the airport, and we went out. And then he dropped me off at the airport. And then literally, I flew in. We went out. He dropped me back off. I got on the airplane and flew back to New Jersey, wearing the same clothes, you know, and I met all the kids that
covered
were
in cheap perfume and glitter.
It was. So I was wearing a pink shirt too, and all the people that were showing up to go to West Point were coming in that day because that was when our shuttle ride was, you know. And I just got off the plane, and I was like kind of in a whir, you know. I didn't really sleep at all, you know, and so. Man, it was interesting.
They probably saw you and went, man, leave him alone. He just got in from Afghanistan.
There's a friend of mine. Well, there was a few of us. There's about 7 or 8 that day that came straight from Iraq and stuff. So I mean, the people that were coming into that airport for that shuttle were all the prior service. We had been in the Army already. Mm-hmm. So we all kind of. We already had our green bags. We already had, you know, you could tell, you could pick them out.
Yeah.
And so they kept us together for the first couple of days. And then we met up with the admissions officer. But yeah.
What'd you study there?
Civil engineering.
Okay. They got a huge civil program, huh?
It's like the number 1 or 2 in the country. Yeah.
My lady that used to work with us, she went there, and she got a civil engineering degree, Lisa Jaster. And she went to Ranger School, too. I think she was like the 3rd lady to go through Ranger School. But she's doing some other stuff now with...
Is she younger?
She's probably a couple years younger than me. I think she's like 43 or 44 or something like that. A little short, redheaded lady. Big personality. But she's... I'll show you a picture of her here in a little while. But she went there. She's the only other one that I know that had gone to West Point. So when I saw you go, I was like, oh, that's 2 people I know who've been there. But that's a pretty prestigious school, man.
Yeah, the only one from Live Oak County ever.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that. That's pretty cool.
And so I put my uniforms that I graduated in, and my class uniform and my dress gray stuff. I put that in the museum here.
Oh, really?
So there's a picture. So like if the kids go and they see that, it's a different uniform than anything else they have in there. So
yeah.
Hopefully one of those kids will see that and maybe say, what is that? You know, and that's all it takes.
Yeah. Well, you know,
what is that?
You're exactly right, man, because, you know, growing up in a small community, you know it, I know it, but we don't quite understand what's available to us, you know, and especially graduating when I did in 95. You know, back then it was like, okay, well, you're either going to go work at one of the prisons or you're going to go work at the refinery. You know, those are your options. And, you know, being able to see that, you know, like I talked about earlier, the big old John Lyon sign, you know, being able to see that, hey, somebody from this area can go to West Point or, you know, can go do these things. It's important, man, for kids to, especially in our little area, we got a lot of quality people, man. So to have somebody be able to see that and say, that's achievable, you know.
They had some guys, I mean, there were some kids that went to the Air Force Academy. There was a couple guys that got in, Blevins and Boyer.
Yeah.
With the football scholarship.
Yeah.
And then you had Bradley Henneke, which he is still, I think, is still in the Air Force, but he got in to the Air Force Academy because of his grades. Mm. And, I mean, I think that's pretty good. That's great on him, you know. And I think he's probably the one, and not to say that Boyer or Blevins didn't have the grades. I'm sure they had the grades as well. Yeah. But I'm sure they were also heavily recruited. But, you know, in terms of academia, and Bradley was the second in command of the entire cadet. He was the vice wing commander.
Oh, really?
When he was a senior. Oh, yeah. So he was the number 2 cadet of the whole place.
That's crazy.
So somebody from George West, Texas, you know, of all places. So, and I actually got to see Bradley. He was a senior when I was a freshman.
Oh, really?
So Air Force came and played Army, and I told him, you know, I had my phone and stuff, and I told him where I was. And I seeked him out, you know, and I was like, hey, you know, what's going on? And so he came and met me. He came to my dorm room, or the barracks room, and I was hosting an Air Force cadet, because that's what happened. Like the cadets will come to the games, but you'll stay if you're underclassmen. You have to stay in the barracks, so you have to host. So either you put up a cot or whatever, but they come and stay in your room, and you just host them, and you get to take them around and stuff, the academy and whatnot, and it's when you host them, you get to talk and stuff outside. Like when you're a freshman, you're not supposed to do any of that stuff, so it's pretty strict. So it's nice to host cadet. Well, you know, that freshman cadet, which I'm still friends with today, he's a pilot. He's a fighter pilot.
That's awesome
now,
man.
But he you know, that Brad walks into the room and he's like straight up, because he knew who that was, you know, and I was like, hey dude, relax, this is my buddy from high school. I'm actually older than him, you know. But and it was cool. I gave him a pair of my Spurs, you know, and said, hey man, and he gave me a patch, which I still have that patch in our van.
Oh, really?
In our tour van, yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's still up there.
That's pretty crazy. You know what? Now that you mentioned Boyer and even Blevins, Blevins I think was a year younger than me, and Boyer may have been 2. Real good athletes. Blevins was a sharp kid, and I always tell everybody he got me through a Spanish class and Miss Mendez's class, because he was a real tall and lanky kid. He could reach the.
Well, if you could stay awake, you could probably get through Miss Mendez's class, but I never did. You know?
Well, I couldn't either. But he had really long arms, so he would steal the paper from the last class. He'd fill it out, and I'd pass him mine. He'd fill it out, and we'd turn him back in. And I think we both got an A, but real sharp guy. You know, he came and gave a speech to the high school several years ago, and man, I loved it. It was the graduating speech or whatever.
Yeah.
And he did a really good job with it.
They had Bradley Henneke did that too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and you know, I came back and said I wanted to do something similar, and they never reached out.
No?
Nope.
I didn't even ask, man, because I knew what the answer was.
What's that?
Absolutely not.
See, like I wanted to, because I mean, I was in alternative school in high school.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. I was in alternative school. So I wasn't that bad of a kid, but I wasn't going to graduate high school on time.
Yeah.
Because my GPA in high school was like a 1.7.
Oh, wow.
It wasn't that I wasn't smart or nothing.
Well, obviously, because you went to West Point and graduated, so.
But my best friend had died, and Alex Garza, and he lived right across the street. He grew up right across the street from me. We grew up playing baseball together, and it really fucked me up.
Yeah.
You know, so I didn't pass a lot of my classes my junior year, so I was behind, and so in order for me to catch up, you know, I had to figure out a way, and I asked to do the modules, and I knew the kids in alternative school did them, you know, and they said they didn't have any spots for me to do that, because I guess there's a certain limit from the state or whatever that allows kids to do modules, and they do it for certain cases, but not for kids that failed classes and need to catch up, I guess, you know.
Yeah.
So I started being a butthead, one of the teachers, and finally it was enough was enough. They put me in alternative school. I caught up on all my classes. When I got done and with that, my time in alternative school, I went back to the Gen Pop, general population. I had one class to take to graduate. So, I mean, then my last semester. So, I mean, I miss homecoming, everything.
Yeah.
But I finished on time, you know. I'm like, well, you know, that happened.
We had a real similar thing when we were in school. We had 4 friends die in a car wreck.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and
they live right, or one of them lived right down here.
Yeah, I want to say that was Eli. No, it wasn't Eli. It was Chris, because his brother is Joe, and they live down by the store, little convenience store down in the corner.
What were the last names?
Man, I know it's Chris, Eli, Wesley, and Jackie, but I forget Chris's last name. I will remember here in a minute.
In your head in a minute.
Yeah, I'll remember in a minute.
But that was on McCaskey Road.
Yeah. I guess somebody had pulled a stop sign out of the road. Kind of went up to a hill. I guess somebody had pulled the stop sign and steal it, and so there was no stop sign there. And they were cruising one night and went over the hill, and there was a large embankment there, and I think that's where they ended up running into the embankment. But
yeah, they were all drinking and having fun,
hanging out.
Like we all did.
Yeah, just cruising.
Everybody
around
did that.
Yeah, that's
you know what I mean.
That's kind of you know, the thing we do down here. You know, me and my wife always, when we first got together, we just argued all the time. She always wanted to go to the bar, and I'm like, I want to go to some friend's house. I want to go cruising. I want to, you know, that's how we party down here. You know, we go do a fire, we have some drinks, we cruise around the back roads, and I have a funny story about that here in a minute, which I'll tell you. I don't know if I'll record it because I don't want kids doing it, but yeah, man. So I mean, takes a toll on you. You know, luckily for I guess maybe us, or unluckily for us, you know, we were seniors on our way out. You know, but you're right. Yeah, I mean, like I almost didn't even go to graduation, but I didn't go to any of the dances or anything like that. I mean, it just kind of sucks the life out of you, you know. So it's not that you're not smart or you're a bad kid or something, but you know, something that hits you harder than what you would expect it to, really starts to derail, you know, you kind of on that stuff. But anyway, that's kind of some personal stuff on the two of us.
But you know, after getting into that at West Point, you know, I just basically went to Georgia for training. I was to learn tanks. I was like an armor guy, and then I went to Colorado Springs for a few years, and that's where I kind of started playing music in the bar.
Okay.
A friend of mine was there, and I kind of just a guy that I'd met at open mic night. And I don't even know if it was really an open mic night, but he let me play a couple of songs, and he's like, "Man, you're pretty good. You should do something." And I was like, "All right." And so I started playing with him.
Had you been writing your own music at this point?
I have. Yeah. I've been writing since I was 12.
Okay.
So like, you know, it's not great when you're 12, you know, but you know, I was kind of like getting into it and doing some more stuff and trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And I ended up playing like 4 nights a week, and then on top of that, I was a platoon leader. So I had 14 guys. I was tank platoon. And then I was doing my master's degree, full-time grad student at the time. So I was doing all 3 of those things at once.
Jeez.
And man, it was tough. But I ended up going to Music Fest in Steamboat, and that really opened my eyes. And I got to meet a lot of people and started thinking like, hey man, I could actually do this. This is how these guys do it, you know? And I ended up being done with my time there in Colorado. I went to Missouri, and which is why I'm in Missouri now. And I put a band together, you know, kind of there, and then I was writing some songs, had some stuff going, and I ended up playing a show with Sam Riggs in Colorado Springs, which when I first met Sam at Steamboat, you know, he was doing his first tour, like Outrun the Sun tour, and that really showed a lot of success for him. And you know, he's still a friend, you know. I mean, sometimes you lose touch with people throughout the years, you know, and this was like 6 years ago. And but you know, I'm grateful for him to like kind of tell me like, hey, you need to go record these songs. And so I said, all right, I'll do that. And I did. you know, I went and I put my band together. I went and we recorded. And so, like, you probably listened to The Great Divide growing up.
Yeah.
Me too. So, you know, as life would have it, I recorded my first 2 records with Mike McClure from The Great Divide.
That's awesome.
And I got to become friends with him, and that, how cool was that?
Yeah, that's super cool.
Yeah, because
and doing that so early on, that's got to be a motivator too, you know.
And he did and they weren't that great recordings, man. You know, the first 2 was just kind of learning, but and he didn't really like help. He helped engineer. He engineered it, but he helped produce a little bit of it. But I think we were in there. We didn't have enough time to do what we really could have done. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And
that was just because we were in the Army and it was kind of rushed and whatever. And now I'm like taking more time on my recordings to like get done what I really want to get done. But that's also where Turnpike Troubadours recorded Diamonds and Gasoline.
Oh, really?
They recorded in the same place there.
You know, it took me a little while to find them, but I really like them. They're good. And
the Diamonds and Gasoline album is what broke them out. You know, so it was a lot of fun. You know, building those relationships and meeting those people, and just, you know, it's really awesome. And I'm just really grateful for the people that I've been able to make friends with. A lot of it's due to Steamboat. Yeah. You know, and I'm going back in January, so that'll be a lot of fun. And then, you know, we've just been playing music the last 2 years full time. You know, I got out of the Army in 2018.
Okay, so that's recent.
As a captain.
Jeez.
So I went in as an E1 private, and I got out as a captain, which is pretty cool.
That's awesome, man.
Did all that, and then I did a corporate job for a little while, and it was okay. And then in that time, I had a little girl, and she lives here in Three Rivers, and so like I come home now, and I get, you know, spend time with her when I can, you know, and then I try to plan stuff where I can come down and spend time with her, and so that's pretty neat. And then, you know, as she gets older, she can be able to come and do some more stuff and kind of see more of what I do. And she's been to her setup and stuff and seen like what our stuff looks like. So it's pretty neat to do that. Yeah. And
it's
then
cool to be able to share that with her.
Yeah, she's I think she gets it. You know, we got her a guitar, and so we'll see how that goes. And then
so let me ask you this a little bit about you're making that transition to commit 100% to the music industry, because, you know, it's kind of one of those things where a lot of people have a passion, but, you know, to be able to say, hey, I'm going to fully commit to this, and I'm going to eat, you know, cup of noodle soup, you know, in the middle of the night and do YouTube videos, you know, what got you? Oh, I know what got you there. It was your passion for playing music and wanting to live that lifestyle to where you're an artist. But was it a difficult thing to say, hey, I'm going to turn the corporate life off and I'm going to turn on, you know, this 24-hour, 7 days a week, you know, 52 week a year hustle on? Because you are, man. I follow you on social media, and you're going 100 miles an hour all over the place.
I think at some point you have to either go for it or don't go for it. And I mean, if there was a time where, you know, if I was like, man, I'm too burned out, or I'm just too stressed out, or I don't feel like I want to do this anymore, like I can fall back on my education and go do a really, you know, good job somewhere, and do all the things everybody does. Buy the house, 6-figure job.
Sit in a cubicle. That's what I do.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, but there's just something about going out and you're driving in Montana, and it's just, you're driving and you're just like, man, I can't believe this is beautiful. And how could I be stuck in the office when this is one of the most incredible views, you know what I mean? And like, get to go out there and do that. And that's not always that great. I mean, you're driving through Nebraska or Kansas, and it's like, man, this is rough. Or South Dakota, you know, it's kind of neat, you know, but at the same time, it's pretty bleak, you know what I mean? Compared to where you were just at. So, but it's nice to get out and you meet a bunch of wonderful people, and you get to share your music, and the music just gets better. the more you ride and the more you play, you learn your craft. You know what I'm saying? And you just hone it in and you get it to where you really want it to be. And so I'm looking forward to seeing how that develops. You know, at least, you know, every year, you know, we plan out the year pretty solidly. And, you know, I've got 62 shows booked for 2022 already.
Wow.
So, I mean, that's almost half as many as I did in 2021. So, I mean, I'm halfway done with my booking. And we haven't even started the year yet, which is awesome, you know, to be able to like have all that in there. And, you know, you can plan out, you know, that's the idea. You know, you want to plan out your finances and stuff. And so you have to manage your business and you do, you know, merchandise and you do all kinds of stuff to like make that happen. And it's tough doing it like just kind of on your own, you know what I mean? You definitely have to have help. I have help from family and friends and the people in the band. They kind of keep me. I'm like this, you know, when you go bowling and you're trying to hit all the pins down and you put the kid rails up, you know, for little kids, like those people are like my kid rails and I'm just this bowling ball. It's just like trying to hit the pins and strike, you know what I mean? That's how I feel. You know, I'm just kind of bouncing back and forth. And sometimes some of the bounces are harder than others.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Sometimes it's not the best, you know, and sometimes it's what you need and you may not like it at the time. And because I'm very stubborn and set in my ways, especially when you work really hard and you put a lot of you feel like you're putting 100% in, and you get a chip on your shoulder.
Sure.
But you got to be careful about that. You know what I mean? So you got to remember how awesome it is to go and play music for people and get out in front and sing and people actually listen and clap and enjoy it or dance or whatever they're going to do. That's the part that you got to be really grateful for. So all of that craziness just for those few moments is totally worth it, you know?
I'd imagine that chip on your shoulder a little bit. Like you said, you have to be real careful with it because you don't want to turn off the people that are supporting you. But at the same time, it can serve as a motivator, I'd imagine, you know, keep you going and you know, make you want to push a little bit harder. And, you know, there's always times that I think that we feel like we're giving 100%, but in reality, it may be closer to 85, you know, and being a little cognitive of that chip on your shoulder is able to say, hey, let me push a little bit harder. But no, I think one thing that I've been kind of paying attention to you here the last couple of years is I noticed you have a lot of irons in the fire. And in talking to you today, from, you know, your high school days to going to the military and going to West Point, it sounds like you've always been wired to be able to handle multiple irons in the fire. You know, me, I get super distracted if I have anything more than one or two things going on, but it seems like you get more and more focused the more things you have going on.
I don't know if I get more and more focused, but I think I try to juggle the things that I feel are priority, and understanding what's a priority is definitely difficult because, you know, if you're one-sided on that, then you're always going to be one-sided. And that's where I feel like you get the pushback from like the people around you that are trying to help develop your priorities, because those things kind of change, a little fluid, but at the same time, you know, it should be pretty solid, you know, where it's caring about your band or putting your band first and understanding that, and then, you know, put your family first, or what comes first, you know. And to me, I'm like, well,
it's a lot of firsts.
There's a lot. So It's like, well, and what's really important to me is that I have shows booked, so that way I can keep a band paid and I can make money and then, you know, support my family and do the things that I need to do. Right. And so that is like, to me, at the end of the day, like I can put someone first and care about them a lot, and I do, but at the same time, like I know, like caring about some thing or someone or whatever is not gonna like pay the bills. And so like I want the responsibility to keep my band employed and have money for my family and stuff. that's pretty much number one to me. Like, and people might disagree with that, you know, especially like from emotional aspect. Like my grandma and my dad, that family, you know, and you know, your faith is often going to be number one. You know what I mean? But you know, that should be pushing the other part. That should motivate you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That should be the motivation for the, like, hey, this is where the meat hits the grinder. You know what I mean? And like, this is how you're going to make this happen. And then that allows you the luxury to focus on a few other things. And I don't know, man. I my relationships with family and other people and women and whatever always suffers. So I'm just kind of at the point where, you know, I just letting it happen.
Yeah.
Letting life happen to me, and then just kind of saying, well, okay, that was great. You know, well, awesome. And just keep my head down and keep driving on, because I know I can do that. You know what I mean? I can. But some people may disagree with me, and that may be an unpopular opinion. So.
Well, you know, I think a lot of times, you know, people like us that come from a small community, you know, when you're growing up, you're taught very basic things, right? God, family, you know, caring for those are the things that are important, you know. And then once you kind of leave and you go into a larger city and you get into, especially industry that you're in, you know, where it's very competitive and there's all kinds of things that you've got to do to keep yourself. I don't want to say I'll say it, but I don't want to say relevant, but to stay relevant. That way people are coming to your shows and buying your merchandise and your music. There's
a lot of metrics out there.
There's a lot going on, man. And a lot of times it starts to pull
negatively or positively on you.
Yeah. And it almost starts to pull you from your core values that you grew up with. Right. And because I catch myself every now and then, I'll catch myself going, man, I wouldn't act like this in front of my friends back home. You know, I wouldn't act like this in front of people I grew up with. Why am I doing this? Mm. You know? And it helps me to come back here. It's almost like a reset, right? You know, I start going through the old neighborhoods and I start seeing familiar faces, and I'm like, okay, now I remember who I am, you know, without all the other garbage that comes with it. So that's been the hard part. But along with everything that you have going on, where do you make time, and what is your process for writing new music? I mean, I'd imagine it's something that's always on your mind, and it's got to be a pressure thing to come up with something new that you like and that you think people are going to relate to. But what is your process for something like that?
Honestly, for me, writing music is more organic. I don't try to. I mean, I have song ideas that I kind of write down and make notes of, but typically I don't really try to sit and write songs. There's a lot of people that do that, and they get paid publishing deals, you know, to be like a song factory. And I'm sure I could do something like that. I mean, if I had a topic and I want to do that, I think that there's a lot of value in that. I think just because there's so much other stuff going on, I don't really try to focus on that. But at the same time, organically, when I say organically, I might be in a certain mood one day or feel a certain way about something, and then boom, a song comes out, and it's the whole song. It's like it develops in there, and it subconsciously develops, and it just all comes out in 5 or 10 minutes. And like, I feel like over the last 20 years, they've just gotten better and better and more developed and more unique. And that's the way that I feel comfortable writing, you know? Yeah. Because if I were to try to sit down and write a song, I don't know where would the passion or the feel or the, you know, any of that other stuff come from, you know? But maybe that's a whole nother skill, you know. That's the way a lot of people have learned to write or done writing. You know, it's like, well, they want to do that, and you come up with these great analogies and songs and ways to say things, you know. But yeah, I don't know. I think I just try to come up with them as they come.
I think there's a lot of people that are very good at, I guess, wordplay. You know, and they're able to put stuff together a lot easier. But, you know, I guess, like you said, being able to have passion in what you're writing, You know, that's kind of one of the keys to, I would imagine, to being a musician is being able to have that passion in almost every song that you play, because you're playing them, you know, you've got 62 shows right now. You know, you're going to play that one song every night for 62 nights. And you're probably going to play it more than that, you know, when you do other shows or when you're rehearsing or whatever. So, you know, to be able to generate that passion in that song every time you play it, you know, I guess you really have, it's got to be something, I guess when you do it organically, it's easy to infuse that passion in that song rather than just sitting down with a pen and going, hey, we're going to knock out 5 songs today. You know?
Or like if you were going to play someone else's song and record that, you know. I mean, I guess there's a part of me that's like, well, I mean, I guess I would do that, you know, if I was like Cody Johnson or something, and if I recorded someone's song and played it and made it a single, that makes them a lot of money, you know? So, I mean, yeah, I mean, in a lot of ways, that's how the music industry kind of helps give back to the people that are writing. That's why people write songs like that, because they're pitching them to the big artists, you know, hoping to get a number one, and that'll pay the bills. Yeah. You know, I think a number one, if Garth Brooks recorded one of my songs and it's a number one, I think it's like $1 million.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's bananas.
It's a big deal. So there's a lot of money in it, and everybody's got their hands in the pocket for somebody. You know, for us, we're independent. I mean, I pay my band. Whatever I make goes to them and back into the business. So I really don't make any money. I don't really pay myself. I should, but I don't really have the money to pay myself. So,
yeah.
Typically everything I'm doing is for that, and it's tough.
So let me ask you this about, you talked about seeing a lot of beautiful parts of the country, and I'm a South Texas man. To me, South Texas guy, anything north of Dallas or Yankees. So I try and hang around this area for the most part. But what are some of the most beautiful places you've seen?
Oh man,
you said Montana earlier.
Yeah, Montana's awesome. Wyoming, Colorado is great. You know, there's places in Missouri that's really nice. You know, the rolling hills and lakes and stuff, and it's just, you know, it's very surprising. And then you've got stuff, you know, everywhere has its own unique thing. It depends on what you're kind of into, but I mean, Montana's pretty breathtaking. You know what I mean? Oh, dude, I mean, it's hard to believe that places like that exist. When you come out here and you're driving around and
it's brush country and mesquite trees.
Yeah. You see those big things out there. Like, dang, that's awesome.
So when you're getting all your windshield time, what are you listening to, man?
Man, you're gonna like this answer. I don't really listen to music. I feel like, especially when I'm on the road, you know, sometimes I will listen to stuff, maybe like some throwback stuff, but really, I typically will have it quiet, or I'll watch a movie. You shouldn't do that while you're driving, but
my wife
I just basically like, I have the having that on. It just keeps me, something's going, you know, because you drive these long drives, you know, you have to stay awake somehow, and that's hard to do, especially when you don't get much sleep or you're loading in, loading out, and playing the show. And, you know, you're doing everything. So same thing for the other guys that drive and stuff. You know, they listen to podcasts and stuff, and maybe a little bit of music every now and then. It just depends on your mood. Yeah. But I really don't listen to a lot of music.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't.
Well, you're around it all the time, so I guess it's kind of one of those things where when you do it for a living, you don't do it so much on your personal time. So that makes sense. One thing that I wanted to talk to you a little bit about was your upcoming shows.
Yep.
What you have coming up this in 2022? And is there a new album? Hey, and who did your new logo? Because that's pretty badass. The CB with the lightning bolts.
Yeah, I did that.
You did it?
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty sure.
I do all my own graphic design and merch stuff for the most part, yeah.
So you got about 20 jobs, is what you're telling me.
I don't know. Maybe. I like being creative in all aspects.
Yeah.
So, you know, we got right now in January. I mean, so for New Year's, I don't know when this podcast comes out, but
probably tomorrow, man.
Oh, so for New Year's, we got our show in Silsbee, the Honky Tonk, back-to-back shows. And then we go straight from there back to Missouri. And then we go from there, we go to Colorado for Music Fest for 5 days. And then we come back, and then we have some local stuff. And then on February 3rd, we're in Montana. It'll be our third Montana trip. We did one in April last year, and we did one in November last year. Now we're doing one in February.
That's pretty cool.
And then we come back home, we get a couple of days off, and then we go to Texas back here till March 13th, mid-March.
Okay.
So we're leaving the beginning of February, and we really don't get done till mid-March. And then after that, we have some local stuff, and then I try to put local stuff in there so people get time home and in between the weeks to be home and relax. Because when you're playing Friday, Saturday, you're not playing Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Mm-hmm. So I try to keep those weeks open. And sometimes I'll do acoustic stuff. But we'll play, hopefully in April, the second half of April, we'll get to go. I'm trying to go out to the southeastern U.S., which would be Alabama, Georgia, Florida, Tennessee, Kentucky.
Okay. Have you been out there before?
Not to play. I played in Tennessee, in Kentucky. But I've never played in Atlanta or Alabama, Georgia, Florida. So we're looking to do like that. And then mid-May to beginning of June, we're doing another Texas tour. It'll be our 7th Texas tour. And then in September, we're looking at doing, the western U.S., so maybe California, Nevada, Arizona, Utah. And then November, we're going to Montana. That'll be our 4th Montana run. And then we'll come back and do Texas. So it seems like we have a thing here. It's like we'll go to Montana and we'll come all the way back and do Texas. And then we'll go home. So, but yeah, so the Southeast U.S. and the Western U.S. stuff are going to be completely new for us to kind of book and work off of. So
that's awesome, man.
And then for music, we got a single probably going to release in April. I'm just waiting on that to get done. And then maybe we're going to do an EP in the summer sometime if we can get everything knocked out by then. But we've always done albums, so I might just do an EP this time.
That's cool.
So we'll see. That's where 2020, I literally just took it off all the notes that I wrote for the band earlier and wrote it down on this piece of paper. So looking at that.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And people can follow you on Instagram, Facebook?
Yep. Yeah, we got our Instagram at Chuck Briseno, and then Facebook is Chuck Briseno Band or just Chuck Briseno. And we've got that blue check mark on Facebook. So that's why you know it's us. And then I guess, the website's the easiest one, chuckbriseno.com. That has every link to everything. I mean, the TikTok, the Snapchat, the Spotify, Apple Music, Pandora. We got Deezer, Tidal. We got music on all that stuff. So that's YouTube, cool. We got YouTube. We got 3 music videos out. So
that's where I usually listen to you guys is on YouTube.
Yeah.
What about booking you guys? If there's a venue or somebody looking to book you guys,
there's a contact form at the bottom of the website.
Okay.
And there's an email there and a number. So just all you got to do is go in there. It's booking, chuckbriseno.com.
That's cool.
Just in the message, there's even a messenger deal that pops up on the website. So all you got to do is hit that button. You can message the band page right there.
And more than likely, it's going to be Chuck responding to you because he does everything else.
Well, we've had some help recently with that part. So still kind of in-house. So, but yeah, somebody.
Who are you looking forward to catching this year for a show?
Oh, I don't know.
Anybody you're interested in seeing?
The only concerts I've been to, I went to Wetzel.
Where'd you see him at?
He's in Springfield.
Okay. Where
we live. We played on a Thursday. We weren't playing that day. And we went and hung out with them. Pretty good friends with those guys.
I tell you what, I'd never heard of them before. My brother Vidal calls me and my wife, and he says, "Hey, I got 2 tickets if you want to go." And I said, "Who is it?" And he said, Wetzel. And I had no friggin' clue who that guy was. And my wife was like, "Well, let's go. It's been Corona. We haven't seen a show in a while. Let's go check it out." So we had some pretty good seats, and so we're hanging out. And there's a couple of bands that played before, and they're pretty decent. And then Cole came out, and I tell you what, man. Like I told some gentleman that I talked to the other day, if you're cool with some parental advisory, he's a hell of a show. I was really impressed. I had never seen it before, and he's
awesome, man.
Yeah,
Colby, my buddy Colby is his front of house guy, and he does he's like the production manager for the most part. He helped direct that show and put that show together, and I don't know what kind of show you saw or when it was, but most recently they've had a big wall with light wall and stuff.
Yeah.
And then they had fire and everything.
And like this compressed air that blows out of the... Yeah, that's the one we saw. And it was awesome, man. I tell you what, it was cool.
Those guys put in a lot of work, man. And I'm really blessed to be friends with some of those dudes because, like, they know how to do it right. And I don't know if I'll ever be at that level, but it's really awesome to understand how they're doing it at that level because they started out just like I did and everybody else did. And look, it's like really awesome to see how they're doing what they're doing, and it's impressive, man. It's nothing short of impressive, and it's cool to see some Texas guys out there kicking ass.
Yeah,
but yeah, he's an awesome person, and he gave me some great advice, and very grateful for that too. Speaking of high demand,
yeah, he is. Speaking of advice, what would you give somebody who's kind of looking at taking this path?
I think I would say. Find an investor and save up a couple $100,000, and you might have it a little easier than most. But if you're gonna do it, I mean, I think you need to find the people that support you and to be there for you because it's not gonna be. I mean, if you're just starting from scratch, just be true to yourself and work hard, and people will see that and support you and build those relationships, and as long as you're not an asshole, I think, people are going to want to, and generally going to want to help you, and especially if you've got a talent and an ear and you're writing good music and stuff. That's the hard part for that's the hard truth about it, is that like the music and the singing and all that might not be that great, and like that's a hard struggle because it's like, well. But you get better over time, you know what I mean? Like, I did not sound good at all when I first started, and I probably still don't sound that great, but it's good enough to keep going. So, just trying to improve, So, if you can have that kind of mentality and you're okay with it, and go for it, Good luck.
I've never been an artist a day in my life, but I'd imagine it's one of those things. Now I take that back. I was 2008 Best Supporting Actor at B County College, like I told you earlier, Chuck. But, it's kind of one of those things where it's like when you decide to be an artist for a living, one thing that people forget is that with art comes critique and criticism. Not all of it's negative, but whether you're painting or you're singing or you're a pianist or, you're a sculptor, you're putting your passion into it and for others to judge
to perceive, yeah.
And as long as you're being passionate and you're, like you said, staying true to yourself and staying true to what you want to produce, the yays and nays are irrelevant at a certain point.
Yeah.
Because now I'm doing what I want and my heart's in it. And if somebody's displeased with it or somebody absolutely loves it, great. If they're displeased with it, so be it. But it came from me. And it doesn't matter that you don't like it.
Yep.
It came from me.
Yeah.
And I think once people learn to kind of put that other stuff aside and just keep trucking and I've been, like I said, I've been watching you, I guess, the past year or two. And I see you grinding, man. I see you grinding. I see you not sleeping. I come here and I see you working on next year. And I think that's one thing that people need to realize is if they're going to pursue this, they need to love it, because if you don't, it's a lot of hard work, man. It's a lot of hard work, and I see you doing it, and I'm excited for you. I'm excited to see what you and the band do next year. One thing I didn't touch on was, and we talked about wanting to, I was going through some of your YouTube videos, and you got an album cover with a burn-up truck.
Yeah.
What's that about, man?
So, a while ago in like 2017, I think it was, we were coming back from a Josh Ward show we played with Josh Ward and Silsby at the Honky Tonk. We were playing for New Year's, and we did a last minute acoustic show for someone who was dealing with cancer. And the reason that part's important is because we didn't, instead of putting the guitar and the fiddle in the trailer, we put it in the back hatch of the van, which was easier to get to.
Mm-hmm.
And we were driving home, and the van caught fire while we were driving it, and it burned up in like 45 seconds.
Jeez.
So I grabbed the money from the shows. I went to the back, opened the double doors, got the instruments out, threw them into the wet grass. And, yeah, we got out of there and lost half the PA system. The trailer caught on fire. I mean, it seemed like that was it. And
were y'all hauling matches? Because that 45 seconds is quick, man.
It was an old van, you know. It was an old van. It was all fiberglass, so it didn't take long for it to get going. And it was rough, you know what I mean? It was tough to deal with. But
everybody got out safe?
Yeah, well, yeah, a little bit, yeah. One guy got some burns on his neck. But,
did he really? Jeez.
But we were all right, you know. We had a show the next night.
Did y'all make it?
You did?
Jeez.
We played it. We lost the drum kit. It was crazy.
That's crazy. So on top of everything else, you still got to be mindful of things like that. I mean, there's the foreseen and the unforeseen, you know, and that's crazy, but a hell of an album cover, man.
Looks cool.
It looks faked, but whenever I guess I was stalking you on Instagram or something, and I saw the original photos, and I was like, holy crap.
Yeah.
That thing burned quick.
It did. It did. It didn't take long.
Well, like I said, man, I'm excited for you in 2022.
Thanks, man.
We'll follow you some more, and I'm looking forward to catching the show and hearing some new music, man. I know everybody's very supportive of you that I've seen. Everybody loves Chuck Briseno. So I appreciate you giving me your time, and
of course.
And man,
this is fun.
I look forward to catching the show next year and have a good time with you guys.
Like, yeah.
Thank you, Chuck.
See you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Gabe Molina Podcast.